Hello and welcome to EV Platform. This week, like we've said in the thumbnail, we are asking the question about the Tesla Model Y and wondering is it the best electric family wagon? Blake, I've had it in the past. Blake had it also for a week. And so between the two of us, we're going to give you our opinion. Blake got it and tried a couple of different things. First of all, we're going to start off with a bit of a road test. Blake is starting off a bit like a creep in a car park, wet and rainy in Drogheda, which is north of Dublin here in Ireland. Don't forget to leave a comment if you haven't already done so. Make sure you subscribe. We're on a drive to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Let us know if you've got the Model Y, what type you've got, version, etc., etc. And if there's something that Blake missed in the comments, I love having ammunition to get them back. So let's get stuck into it.
Hello and welcome back to the channel for something that I am really excited about. Now, if you're watching this over in the US, you're probably going to fall asleep because you guys have had the Tesla Model Y for about 30 years now at this stage. But we've only had it for a few weeks in Ireland and I'm really excited to get my hands on it. Now, we're out filming today with the Tesla, but the weather is absolutely atrocious. The forecasters have let us down big time. I don't know if you can tell by looking out the window. The rain is coming down. It's a bit windy as well. Not good, but we're going to get stuck into the driving part of this first and then hopefully catch a break in the weather and give you a walk around outside, talk about what it looks like, boot space, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to use the Tesla now to navigate to a supercharger. It's about 30-40 miles and something like 50 or 60 kilometers north of here, because it's a good chance to show off how good this car is at road tripping and going distances. And that's something that, you know, is really built into the culture of people living in like the US and Canada, maybe in continental Europe. In Ireland, we tend not to do it too much. We might go Dublin down to Dingle, or you might go from Galway to Wexford for your holidays or something like that. The distances are never vast. Like, there's no point in this country where I am here in Drogheda, there's no point on the island of Ireland that I can't get to on a full charge in this car. It's absolutely incredible. But when you're out tripping, you want to be able to know you have enough to get back, or if you wake up like we have today, we've only got 29% here. We wouldn't have enough to get up to the likes of Belfast or Donegal or somewhere like that on one charge. So I'm going to plug in now. We'll switch the camera around and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. Okay, time to hit the road, but let's navigate to where we want to go. So you can put in just here, type in your address, whatever you want, but we're looking for the closest supercharger. So we click on this button over here and that shows us all the local superchargers, not just the supercharge as well, but ESB, Ionity's in there. I'll tell you their charging rates. Fantastic system. But what we want is the closest one, Castle Bellingham, and I'm going to catch the southbound one, so there's as much charge in the battery as possible when I get home. So I click on that and it calculates the route. Now, if I didn't have enough battery to get there, it would tell me that and it would route me and guide me to a way where I could grab a charge on the way. So it's a fantastic system. I could just plug in Aberdeen or Napoli or something into this and it would tell me exactly where and when I need to charge on the whole journey. It's brilliant. It tells you how long the distance is, how long it's going to take you. But another thing that I love about it as well is we click this energy button down here, it'll tell you what battery you're on, start in 29 and track the battery performance all the way down to 15%, which is what we should be on when we arrive there. I love the system. And click on consumption there and it'll track your average over 10, 25, 50 kilometers. Brilliant system. And project range as well. So it's saying 174 based on my last 10 kilometers of driving. Up here it's saying 153, so that all depends on what sort of conditions you're in. So I think it's time to hit the road and see how this performs. Okay, we have got the cameras rolling again, and that is for a couple of very particular reasons, because in the next 45 seconds or a minute, maybe a minute and a half if I keep nattering on, but we are about to merge onto the motorway, and in Ireland we've got a speed limit here of 120 kilometers per hour, so it's going to give us a good chance to talk about power, cruise control and things like that. Now, coming up the hill, there's a car behind me here, and yeah, it's got no chance of keeping up with this. Anyway, we are about to merge onto the motorway. 324 kilowatts of power, 493 newton meters of torque. Now there's a car about to go by, and here we go, about to floor it. Whoa, 90, 100, 110, whoa, stop, that's too fast. Oh my God, this thing is just incredible. How can it be so fast? Like, I know it's really big. It's 2,054 kilos unladen, which is actually lighter than a lot of its petrol and diesel counterparts, but it gets there so quickly. So it got two motors. It's genuinely all-wheel drive. It's a permanent magnet, and then it's an induction on the front, I think. And if I'm wrong on that, we'll put some notes up there. but wow, it's so fast. It's going to do the 0 to 100 km/h sprint in 5 seconds flat. It's just nuts, absolutely nuts. In case I didn't mention it, an old money, 441 horsepower. Anyway, I need to calm down a little bit. We're on the motorway, we're cruising. I'm going to bring it up to the speed limit, which is 120 kilometers. Now, to set the cruise control, just one tap on this, and there we go. We're sitting at 120, which is handy, but a lot of cars, you know, nearly every car has this really. What we want to know about is the, whoa, actually, now this is interesting. We're coming up behind a car just here. So we're doing 120, they're probably doing 115 or thereabouts. And this is just starting to slow down now and just track the car in front. And we can kind of choose that distance in the settings as well if we're not comfortable with how it's going. So yeah, slow down slightly. And it is going to offer me the chance to pull out and overtake. No, it's not, because I don't have on the lane keep assist and those driver assistant functions, which really elevate this. So we're going to just pause here for a second. Maybe Derek will do his fast editing fancy pantsy trick where this plays really quickly, and then we'll catch up in a moment. Okay, we are back on the road, and this is really interesting. There's a grey Model Y just tucked in behind us on the motorway. I'm going to go back into this lane now because I want to show you this features as well. So it's quite busy here. You can see a lot of cars driving by me. So I'm just going to stick with 110 because I want to be able to show you the cruise control. So yeah, I've dropped it down to 110 here. So that means I won't be overtaking cars. But if I double tap this stalk now, yeah, we've got lane keep assist. Well, you know what? It's not even assistant. It's just going to do the whole lot for me, let's be honest. Now, regulations over here in Europe don't allow us to get anywhere near the functionality that you guys will over in the US if you're watching this there. Here, what I can do now is take my feet off. I don't need the brake, the accelerator. It's going to do everything for me. Now, in theory, I could just take my hands off the steering wheel, but it's not fully allowed by law. And all I would have to do is every now and again just put a little bit of pressure on the steering wheel to let the car know I'm here. But otherwise, it's doing everything for me. Now, the cars have gotten ahead of me because I've only been doing 110. But let's say I want to go up to 115. I just flick up the rotary knob there to 115, flick it up again, and it's bringing me up to now 120. If I want to flick it slowly, I can go up in ones. Okay. So this is now starting to catch the cars in front. Yeah, it slows you down just as you're behind the car. Okay, that's interesting. A motorbike just kind of cut me off basically, but the car didn't jam on the brakes all of a sudden. It recognized that it was there at the speeds that it was going at, which was faster than me. So, yeah, what a system. It's absolutely brilliant. It won't let you undertake either. So if you come up behind the car sitting in the outside lane, it'll just slow down, but then put your foot on the accelerator to move up and just let the car know that you're happy with that, and then it'll continue on again. Just, what a system. Absolutely brilliant. And to just give you an update as well on battery, because we left with 29%. It was predicting we were going to get there on 14, and we are pretty much bang on schedule. We're slightly below that, but in fairness to the car, I pulled over for about 4 or 5 minutes just to get the cameras hooked up again, and that would have used a bit more energy as the battery was preconditioning and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much on track. We're still going to get there on 14%, it says. Okay, catch up to you later once we get to the supercharger. Well, slight change of plan. I was enjoying myself so much on the motorway there. Battery and the range. This thing is so efficient at speed. It's just incredible for something this size. Yes, I decided to change the plan. We're going to end up there in 14%, and I just thought it'd be a bit of fun to run it down a little bit lower, see how it reacts with the supercharger when we arrive there, and just get a full test of the range as well, so I can track what it was like from 100% all the way down to very, very low. So it's not like I went to the next junction. I decided I'm going to go all the way out around Dundalk and into Newry. So we are just on the outskirts of Newry now, and I've still got 12% battery left, which I presume is enough to get me back. But once I get into Newry, and I stop them off the motorway and the national roads, then we'll recalculate and see how we're fixed. I might have to go for a local coffee while this thing charges on a slow charger for a few minutes. We'll see. What started out as real life testing has gone a step further. So I just went to put in the coordinates and navigate back to the supercharger, but it was in there already, so the car kept recalculating my route, so I didn't have to do that. But handy enough, I double checked anyway, because we're down to 11% and it's saying I'm going to get to the supercharger at 3%. So yeah, should be okay. It's cutting a little bit tight, but I think the great thing about Tesla and the network and the superchargers is you just know they're going to work. I haven't forgotten my RFID card. It's not like I need reception on my mobile phone for an app to get it to work. I just know I'm going to plug in the car and it's going to charge. That's such a comfort. Can't overestimate that. Yeah, just love it. It's one of those things that just elevates Tesla. And nobody can give out about it. Even if you hate Tesla or Elon Musk or you have panel gaps and all that stuff you hear, you can't fault this. Yeah, brilliant. So we have arrived at the supercharger and we are backing in because that's the way you do it in a Tesla. So when I stop this car now, I'm gonna plug out the camera, put it into another position, show you the screen here so you can get all the detailed stats and see exactly what we've done today and over the course of the week. Hey, oh, make sure to plug in your car. Yeah, we're down to 2%, but we made it. So we arrived on 2%, plenty to get here. Just comfortable camp. Would I ever do this in a Nissan Leaf, relying on the other charging network, the other public ones? No, you just couldn't. As I look over there now, there's one ESB stall, there's a Leaf plugged into it, and there's an e-Niro parked beside it, which I presume is waiting to charge. And that's what Tesla gives you. But anyway, look, let's turn around the camera screen here, and we are gonna, let's get you set up. Hold on, we point straight at it so you can see what I'm seeing. Oh, exposure is terrible. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, there we go. So the trip that we just did, 87 kilometers. Now, a lot of that was stopped. So even though the average consumption is pretty high, 219 watt hours per kilometer, it would have been a lot lower than that. Even though the weather was pretty bad, it was lashing rain and I was maxing it out speed-wise, all within the legal limit, of course. But it was never even going to be higher than that. No. And then over the course of the week, so we're down to 2%. So we've probably got, you know, somewhere around that 10, maybe 15 kilometers with a little bit in reserve left. So we would have cracked the 400 kilometer mark out of it. And that would have been used 65. So you can see how much I was using on standby, because these Tesla figures, they only show you what the traction battery has given out. So, you know, if you've got your heating on, or if I'm sitting here like this, just watching Netflix or something like that, I would have been using energy. It doesn't show up on this. But still, an average of 161 watt hours, that's pretty good. And I'd say well over half my driving has been on motorways at full speed. So yeah, like this car is an absolute animal. But I think now it's time to go charge her up. I'm gonna plug it in and you'll see what on the screen here as I go and plug it in. So bear with me. Oh, that is so easy. Okay, back in the car. What do we have? We're charging. Let's see, can we get... Is it just ramping up now? Yeah, it's ramping up. You can see just up here, up to 6-7 kilowatts. So it's just feeling itself out. And here we go, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And we are hit 100, 110. We're going up to 120. And it's peaking at 123 because we are on the V2 supercharger. Now, if this was a V3 supercharger, and there's a couple littered around the country here in Ireland anyway, we would have ramped right up above 200. We would have been up to about 210 or thereabouts. I think the Model Y can go higher depending on which spec or which battery, where it was made, things like that. But here in Ireland, we'll get just over 200. And it is charging at a rate of 820 kilometers for every hour we're plugged in. So there we go, we're back up to 3%. It's going to keep on going, but I think that it's time for me to go in, get rid of my bladder anxiety, because I have more bladder anxiety than I did range anxiety on this trip. I'll get myself a bite to eat. Yeah, I'm hungry and I need the bathroom. Inside the Model Y, now we are not going to spend a lot of time here at all because there's hundreds, thousands of videos out there explaining the whole thing, but let's just do a quick 1 minute kind of run through. Steering wheel, you'll notice straight away, lack of buttons. We've got 2 rotary knobs just here. There's button releases for the doors. We've got a button for the emergency lights here and a couple of buttons on the stock, and that's it. Otherwise, there's nothing really. Steering wheel, I find it quite comfortable. Some people give out about it, but it's a nice size for me. You can adapt the steering whether you want it to be sharper or looser. Yeah, quite enjoy it. But everything in the Model Y, in the Model 3 and so on happens on this screen just here, and it's just stunning. It's brilliant. The quality of it is absolutely superb. It's so responsive, the map is so fast, and the functionality. Now, this one is powered by the AMD Ryzen chip, so it's really fast, really snappy. When you want to open up the likes of Netflix or YouTube on this, it just happens within a couple of seconds. Like, it's really, really brilliant. Now, press the car symbol down here and you get a whole menu down there: pedals and steering, charging, autopilot, locks, and you can just change so much here. You got to open things like the glove box from there. Some people give out about that, but it's a case of pressing 2 buttons. I think, you know, if you could turn on a camera to record a video like this, you can definitely open the glove box. Otherwise, what's a big difference now from previous models for people who had the Model 3 and the likes, is that down here the user interface is just a bit sharper and snappier, so you can toggle these around. So that, for example, I love to use this icon here which brings up the energy consumption and the trip and stuff like that. But if you're not happy with that, you can choose karaoke, Spotify, browser. Let's say something like messages you like to use a lot. Put your finger, drag it down, and that will permanently sit there on my apps, which is really, really handy. 2 wireless pads just here. There's so much storage space just down there, under here as well. A couple of cup holders, the bin holder. Now this isn't as big as it could be, but that's a good thing because we've got a flat floor at the back and people can stick their feet underneath, and it's just really, really comfortable for them. There's so much space in here as well. The panoramic roof just feels so open and airy. I can see why, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky and people can get very prickly about this. I can see why some people don't call it a premium interior. Does that mean that there's anything wrong with it? No, absolutely not. Like, this is a whole different ball game from the Teslas that were being made nearly a decade ago. It's just brilliant. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Maybe you don't like the wooden finish, you know, maybe you like a different material on your wing mirror. I mean, some people like that, the feel of the stitching around here, the type of leathers, but we're talking about a manufacturer that is all about functionality, saving weight, doing things a little bit differently, sometimes just because they can. But, overall, I mean, it's a stunning vehicle. So we're just about to finish up our supercharging session. Now the car is indicating that it's at 100%, but I suspect that's 99.5% or higher, just rounding it off, because as you can see, we are still pulling 10 kilowatts, even though we're pretty much full. Even a home charger normally maxes out about 7.5, it's still beating that. But anyway, let's talk about range for a second, because we've got a 75 kilowatt hour usable battery in this. It's only a 2-ton car despite its massive size. It's very aerodynamic as well, so really, really efficient. But I have been quite unfair to the car in the week that I've had it. When I got it home, I plugged it in overnight in my house up to 100%, and then I just ran it as I normally would for the week. I went in and out of work and kids to crash and all that kind of usual stuff, plus the run out here to get it down to 2%. But I was very unfair with, for a few reasons. 3 or 4 occasions I preconditioned the battery and the cabin to leave my house, and then never did for an hour, half an hour later. So I wasted a lot of energy like that. I probably spent 6 or 7 hours this week working from inside the car as well, where I would have had the heating on a little bit and just sat there, and maybe I watched something on YouTube a couple of times as well. So I've been really, really hard on it, and I've still, sorry, about half of that, more than half of that was maxed out on the motorway within the legal speed limit. So yeah, I've really pushed it, and I was still on track to get about 405, 410 kilometers out of it. I mean, it's stunning. So what we're going to do now, short version of all that is we're going to go from 100% when this stops charging now in the next couple of minutes down to the airport, which I'm told is 63 kilometers and 53 minutes away. But I'll be a little bit early if I leave now. So what I'm going to do is, instead of driving at 120 on the motorway, I'm just going to drop that down to more like 100. Take it easy, because I've been really harsh on the car from 100 down to 2% today, but now I just want to see what it's like from 100 until I get to the airport, where you're kind of taking it a little bit easy, you're not in a rush, and just to get a balanced figure for where this might sit, because you know, you're looking at anything, you're really kind to this car, you'd be getting above 600 kilometers. Whereas wintertime, -5 Celsius, you're barreling down the motorway, maybe that's dropping down close to 300 probably. So it looks like a very fair assumption for this car is in between that 400 and 450 mark. But this run down to the airport now will tell us a little bit more. So our round trip was done. We've gotten back home. So we went down to the airport, picked someone up, dropped them home, and then I've come out just to a car park to finish off filming. And we did 104 kilometers for using 14 kilowatt hours of the battery and an average of 138 watt hours per kilometer. So phenomenal difference as well. Like, that was above 200 when we were driving it a bit hard on the motorway, and we got that down to about 138 now. So I think at that rate, we're looking at a range in this car for the drive that we just did, although we slowed it down a lot on the motorway, of course, granted, we kind of set it to 95, 100 kilometers an hour, thereabouts. Yeah, I think when you take it easy like that, you're well above 500, and we were tracking for about 530, maybe 540 kilometers there. So I think that my kind of day-to-day driving, dropping the kids to school, going in and out of work, things like that, I'm late 400s, 500 kilometers in average, I would say. In the winter, maybe down towards 450, and if I'm lucky, above 550 maybe. Taking it easy. Yeah, phenomenal range. Well, that was my take on driving the Model Y there. A little bit of talk about range, supercharging, things like that. So I think what we do, Derek, I want to get your opinion on what you just saw there, because you've driven the car as well, you've experienced it. And then once we get your take on that for a minute or so, we might jump back into the car, and I'm going to show you guys around the inside as well. So let's hear Derek's take on that, and stick around then for us going back into the car.
The driving of the Tesla Model Y, it's amazing. You know, the technology, the power, the range is phenomenal. That supercharger network, no matter what country you're in, as long as there's a supercharger network here. It's not too prevalent here in Ireland, but it definitely is starting to get better on some of the major motorways. My only issue with the Tesla Model Y is at lower speeds, I think the suspension is a bit firm. And so potholes and manholes and speed bumps, I think there's a lot of a clunk to it. But otherwise, yeah, it's a car that's hard bet at that price point with an electric battery and an electric motor. What's your thoughts, Blake?
Yeah, I kind of agree what you said there. I see your point about being a bit firm at the slower speeds, but it's not something that stood out to me. And I mean, it's a big car, it's a tall car, although the center of gravity is quite low with the battery pack underneath. It wouldn't put me off the car in any way at all, although I do acknowledge what you said. And maybe for some people that's a little bit comfortable, but I suspect that maybe were you getting one of the magic carpet rides and a nice Citroen air suspension before or after that you're comparing it against?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're like, we're in and out of electric vehicles every other week, every other day, and so get to know what. And I'm getting older, and so I like comfort over everything else. And it is, yeah, I'm starting to find what I like, and we'll talk about it at the end as to what we think the competitors are and where would we put our own money. But let's go back into the Model Y, and you're going to show us a bit of a look around on the inside.
Quick look at the Model Y from the front end. Now, you'll notice some things straight away. Of course, compared to the Model 3, it sits up that bit higher. So instead of the Model 3, which would break, just about here, this one's those few inches taller. And you can see it swoops a lot as well, the angle. A lot of SUVs these days, it's just a blanket front. The bonnet's up here, it's flat back and then up into the steering wheel. But this one swoops all the way up, all about aerodynamics really and efficiency. But yeah, I'd say I really like it. It doesn't swoop down here as much as the Model 3. Some people call it Model 3, say it was a bit of a frog face or something like that. Less of it on this, but hey, I still think both of them look great. And of course, we got the frunk, and I have my phone here. Pop it open and lift it up. 117 litres of space, because we're talking about practicality here today as well, aren't we? Great place, mucky boots. Store your cables in there if you want. Maybe a smelly curry on a Friday night after work on the way home. Yeah, it's great space. Around the side now of our slightly dirty Model Y, because the conditions have been so bad today. But you start to get a feel for the bulk of it. Like, it's a big car, but it doesn't occupy a footprint that's overly big, you know, compared to some of the combustion SUVs that are out there. Like we're talking about a 2.9 meter wheelbase, and the car is only about 4.6 overall, but that wheelbase been stretched out and wheels out into the corner allows you to package a lot more into the car. These are on 19-inch alloys, by the way. We've got the aero hubcaps on it, but you can obviously take those off if you want to go for alloys as well. But I think for me, this is the best angle of the Model 3. Model Y. I absolutely love it. I think it looks spectacular from here. Finally, a bit of good weather as we come around to the business end of the Model Y, because we're really talking about space here and practicality today. But before we do that, one thing I want to draw your eye to is how gradually it swoops at the back here. It doesn't have a boxiness at all that you see in a lot of the SUVs. And from this angle, you can also see the way it pinches in here just above the rear wheel arches. Kind of narrows down a little bit. It just makes it really, really aerodynamic. Helps with that efficiency, and that's why we're getting so good range out of it. But we want to talk about space and practicality inside. So power tailgate, yes please, we love those. It's too much effort just to lift it up, isn't it? Now let this sink in. 854 litres of space in there. It's ginormous. I'll tell you how big it is. I folded down the back seats a couple of days ago and I got a single mattress that I had to move somewhere else, flush into the back. Absolutely brilliant, and that's still in my seating position. And I say flush into the back as well because we've got a flat floor just here, so which is great. You got buggies, heavy gear, big bags, stuff like that. Maybe rake empty bottles of wine that you're bringing down to the bottle bank. You just straight in and out, just slides out, and that really helps a lot of people as well, especially with back issues. But that's not all, because I did say 854 litres. You've got lots of space down there. We've got lots of space in there as well, but it's modular. Lift this up, folds into place, and you've got a lot more space down there as well. All sorts of emergency kits, cables, whatever you want. Let me tell you about that. Both of my young children were able to fit in that because they wanted to play hide and seek, and we're able to close it over. That's how big it is down there. It's just fantastic, isn't it? And then when you're done, of course, the power tailgate again. Love it. So there we go. That was my take on the inside of the Model Y as well. And now I think it's time for us, Derek, to answer that question. Is it the ultimate family wagon, you know, in terms of SUVs and what's available out there? And then also, let's just talk a little bit about the competition as well and say, you know, has it clearly bet everything, or what are the other options? Is it too expensive, etc.? So let's just go kind of large scale here at the moment, Derek. What did you make of what you saw in the video there today? What's your overall impressions of the Model Y before we go on and answer the question?
Yeah, you know, a phenomenal car. When I did review it first, it was left-hand drive. It was from Netherlands that we had here in Ireland. A car was brought over, and I proclaimed that I think it was going to be the best-selling car electric car in 2023. And so far, we're 1 quarter in, and that end of quarter rush from Tesla, we start to see those sales numbers roll out across Ireland and Europe. Is it? Yeah, you know what? You can see why people want it. It is at the premium end. It is expensive compared to a lot of other electric vehicles, but you do, in my opinion, get the space that you've paid for, the technology that you've paid for, the range, and the supercharger network. So, yeah, it's a very serious proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is really expensive, and I think that the people who are going to be buying this, they have the money, and whether it was 65 or 75,000, it doesn't really matter to those kind of people that are buying it. So yeah, more power to them. If they can afford it and they want to pay for it, then go out and get, you know, what is one of the best, let's say for the moment, family wagons out there.
Yeah, is it the ultimate one, I suppose, Blake, is the question to ask. And when you start looking at it, what ticks the box for a family wagon for you with your boys? Would this be the car you go for, or are you looking at different form factor? Are you looking at a different price point?
So it's a good question, and you know what I mean. It's I might have to say there's no answer to it, but like I've got 2 young kids, about 4 and 2, a couple of baby seats there as well, all the bags and the luggage. We still cart around the buggy a little bit, you know. We're heading over to Scotland now on the ferry in a few weeks' time, and am I looking forward to doing that in my 30 kilowatt hour 5-6-year-old Nissan Leaf, or would I prefer a Model Y? Yes, I would. So yeah, I mean, it ticks every single box, everything that I'm looking for. You know, as a dad with 2 young kids, in terms of space, power, range, charging, comfort, tech, preconditioning in the morning, like it ticks every box. So yes, it is the ultimate family wagon. But then it comes down to the individual. And for me, can I justify spending that money on it? Would I prefer to go to to Barbados with the family for a holiday every year for 5 years, you know, over buying something like the MG5, MGZ SEV, or even an ID4, something like that. And then you got to think, what do I need that the Tesla Model Y gives me that the others won't? And need, no, absolutely nothing. So what about you, Derek? Because you had it as well. You know, you got the dog into the back of it and lived with it for a while.
and I had it the same week as a Skoda Enyaq, and I have a video coming on my channel where I'm reviewing one beside the other, just because they're both ticking a lot of family boxes. And recently I had the Citroen e-Berlingo as well, and phenomenal value. You're going to get 2 Citroen e-Berlingos for the price of one Tesla Model Y, and that's a van with seats in it. Don't get me wrong, but I am very much now about, no more than getting old and wanting comfort, I'm very much now about also practicality and that form factor. Like, there's 1,000 liters in the Citroen Berlingo up to the parcel shelf. Like, it's phenomenal space. All 3 ISOFIX seat positions across the back. So is it the ultimate family wagon? Probably. Well, if you're going to go that way, the Tesla Model, X is probably the ultimate family wagon if you don't have to worry about what the price is. But the Model Y is phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely. And like you, me, Blake, we both got one for free, or we had the money, we won a large sum of money, we probably would spurge on it and have that comfort and have that technology. Is there a better option, Blake? If you had to, what would you go for? Would it be the MGZS, or would you be looking at something else? If I said you had that amount of money in your bank account and you had to buy a car, would that be the car you would buy?
Oh, no. For me now, I would. There's something that I would just prefer to get, like an MG5, the Estate, or something like that, because it gives me everything that I need. The range isn't that far off the Model Y, you know, maybe 50 to 100 kilometers, something like that. But if I had that kind of money to spend, let's say, would I go for a really high spec Enyaq or Q4 e-tron? Or no, it'd be the Model Y, I think, just because of what it gives me in terms of that, the supercharger network, the tech, just the efficiency as well. I probably would go for the Model Y. As I sit here, ask me another week now after test driving a Q4 and I might change my mind. But at the moment, that's what I'd go for. And it's really interesting because you mentioned a point earlier on, to touch on it. Like, we're driving different EVs, you know, every other week. So the thrill of getting a Model Y doesn't exist for me in the same way that it might for a regular consumer, because, like, in the last 2 or 3 months, I've driven a Model 3 long range, a Model 3 performance, a Model Y, BMW iX. You know, you go through the whole list. So I wouldn't get that sense of, oh, I'm going to go out and buy a Model Y, because I'm probably going to get another one on test again in the next few months, you know?
Exactly. If I was to spend that kind of money, I would probably, honestly, I'd look at the Mustang Mach-E GT.
Okay.
I think the suspension system that they've got there, the Dyna something. It's an oil-filled suspension system. I can't think of the name of it. I'll put it in the comments. But quality, fit, finish, and for that kind of money, yeah, you know what? It's not the most technology. It hasn't got supercharged network, but that big tablet that's in the dash, etc.
Yeah.
Sorry?
There's just one question before we break as well. If you're watching this and you're not living in Ireland, and we know by the viewership that many people aren't, the supercharger network and the range, how much of a factor is that for you? Because we don't fully get that in terms of living with it in Ireland, because we're traveling across the country on a single charge. You know, we're not going to do those week-long road trips, or, you know, those 2,000-mile journeys. So tell us, where you live, do you just have to have a Model Y because you got that range, efficiency, and supercharger network? I'd love to get people's opinion on that.
Absolutely. Leave a comment. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Like the video and share it with somebody that's thinking about buying a Tesla Model Y. This has been EV Platform.
Thank you very much for watching.